Hello, everyone, and welcome to Yes 3.0 Abundance and Wealth. I am your show host, Brandy Vale. It is bringing me great honor to be in such an amazing industry, such as Web3. And the only reason I say it in such a way is because I meet extraordinary people like one of our spotlight guests today, and his name is Brian. He is coming in from Expert Dojo. He is one of the extraordinary VC judges that I recently had a chance to have a conversation with on site at BitAngels at Bitcoin 2024. And the core of the model is to be ready when you have a great product or a service that you are going to launch and go and visit with VCs. So today's show is all about what are the secrets behind startup community and startup entrepreneurship that you need to know so we can deep dive and make sure you're ready. So a couple of items here. Let's just get started. You know, we've all been into a journey of creating something somewhere, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're just thinking about having a great idea. But behind the scenes, there's a lot that goes into that conversation, right? Maybe you start with an idea or a thought, and then from that thought comes another thought. And you write it down and you think, well, who will actually buy this or who will get on board with this? And so the concept behind today's talk is to be human and to understand what might be going on inside of you as you are being the creator, all the way leading up to actually asking for a seed round or an angel round. And I know we can do that on this show because this is all about abundance and wealth. And that starts with you, the belief in yourself and the belief in others and the belief that you can change the world in some way, shape, or form. So with that being said, I want to welcome Brian Mac Mahon here. He is the founder, as I mentioned, of Expert Dojo. He has been around the world bringing up startup companies. He has just announced in Nashville about M80's fastest growing esports company in the world in Web3, that they won the competition. So let's just start with a little fun and bring him to the stage today. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. I'm the entertainment for the day. I like that.
Well, you are very fun. I know we just did an Instagram and we were so just in the moment. There's not a lot of planning. It's just, that's entrepreneurship, right?
That is the way. It is best to not have to try and pretend it's something that it's not, right?
I was asked let me rephrase that. I was asked if I had a project and if I thought it was ready. And then Alicia of BitAngel said, it's okay. It doesn't need to be ready. Just bring it and we'll tell you how to get it ready in our accelerator. So share with us a little bit about you and why you're in bridging all of the startups and helping them accelerator.
Okay, it's a long story. I'm going to give you the non-Irish story because I think this is just a 30-minute session or so, and I don't want to keep you for the whole day. But I really like startups. I've kind of liked startups a lot for about 15, 20 years. And right now, if I work my way backwards, and let me actually do it backwards rather to create the environment, because I think you want this to be about, human moments and about how humans can come together and the human side of startup. So like today, we're one of the most prolific investors in the world. We've invested in 300 companies. We will invest in another 30 to 50 companies this year. We'll invest in probably another 50 to 100 companies next year. Those companies we invest in are all over the world. There's as many Black people as white people, women as men, small people as tall people, old people as young people, like it's everybody. I have only one bias in life, and that's towards execution. There are people who are exceptional executors, and there are people who are terrible executors. And I love exceptional executors. So I dedicate pretty much my entire life to those people. And so we've been building up the accelerator and investing in companies. We do early stage checks of around $50,000. And then we do follow-on checks, which we'll put in of up to $1 million after the company has hit very specific metrics. And we've been doing that for about 5 years or so. And so I'm what you might call an unlikely capitalist because on one level, I really don't like venture capital. Never really wanted to be a part of venture capital, never really made it as something that I wanted to do, but I leaned into it. And I leaned into it because around 10 years or so ago, I had a very good friend, JP Morgan, and I was talking to JP about venture capital in general. And I said to him, oh my gosh, venture capital is a sexist, misogynistic, racist environment whereby all of the money gets put to a very small group of people who are generally fairly privileged and they go to nice schools. And, you know, I'm all for a bit of unfairness. If you work harder than the person next door to you, then maybe your kid should get a little bit of a break. But I think when things get so unfair that it kills and stifles innovation, then what happens is you have a destructive system that eats a country, nation, continent from the inside until there's nothing left. And so for me, I felt this in a very deep way. And my friend said to me, hey, you need to speak about this. So I did a TEDx talk, which was called The Kidnapping of the American Dream. And that talk spoke very specifically to everything that was wrong with venture capital and how such large sums of money was manipulating the entire innovation flow of the United States. And if we had a longer time, I would give you example after example after example after example of terrible, awful, filthy, dirty, horrible companies that should never have become unicorns, but they were manipulated their way there through one form of a pyramid scheme or another by some venture capitalists who had tons of money, and it gave it to them and gave that money to certain people to unfairly non-compete with other people that were probably better than they were. So I felt very deeply about this, and I did this talk. And then something really interesting happened, because I thought that after I did the talk, I thought that pretty much every venture capitalist would, of course, say, like, why would we want to deal with you? Like, you just said nasty things. But I didn't say nasty things about them because I haven't met a venture capitalist I don't like personally. I was saying nasty things about the evil of money. The evil is not the venture capitalist. The evil is when an early stage founder is able to get $100 million on a Tuesday just because. You know, that's the evil, and that destroys everything beautiful that could have come from other innovations that would come through. So anyway, I did this talk, and then I finished the talk. And when I finished the talk, then I was approached by a bunch of people, and a bunch of them said, hey, you know, it's easy to criticize. Why don't you do something about it? Which was the genesis to starting Expert Dojo. And now we're one of the largest investors in Africa by deal numbers in the world. And we've probably got 40, 50 investments in India. We've got a ton of investments in female founders in India. And like, you think things are tough over here, they're a lot tougher for female founders in other countries. And we've only really just got started. Oh, I cannot hear you. Oh, you're on mute, Brandy.
I would love to talk to you more. I know we only have a few minutes here, unfortunately, so I would love to invite you back to talk about female founders, especially in India and also Bangalore, and looking at what's happening in Bangladesh. There's so much to deep dive into, so I appreciate you bringing that to the surface.
Even the United States, look, we don't look the same in how the PR goes out, but it ain't good here either. And if you look at the environment of female founders and how they really get treated in the United States, considering 50% of folks are pretty much women, and only a tiny proportion of women get any money, and all of the people handing out the money are men, then yeah, we can't throw any rocks because we live in a big old greenhouse ourselves.
So let's ask the question, where did it start? Where did this relationship with money and discriminatory action start? I know we can go all the way into some very deep conversation, but it starts with you. I'll give you the answer so we don't have to go so far down the rabbit hole. It really starts with you. I mean, do you believe that we can actually change the world from the inside out?
I mean, women are my best founders. Look, I only have one bias. My bias is just execution. That's it. Good executors, bad executors. Like, my favorite, if we're talking about wealth and money and all that kind of stuff, The people who I am not crazy about are like the Tony Robbins of this world. I think it's fine. They do great shows. They're wonderful, but everything's not wonderful. You can't just imagine a castle using neurolinguistic programming and suddenly a castle appears the next morning because the world is beautiful and it will hand it to you, right? I'm all for positive thought, and I think that stuff is great. But when it's baseless positive thought, the only people who are making money are the life coaches. But I'll tell you who I do love, a guy called Tony Nadal. Now, Tony Nadal was the coach for Rafa Nadal. And Tony was Rafa's uncle. And I'll tell you a little story about perseverance and wealth and accumulation of money and everything else. When Rafa Nadal won the national championships in Spain, the junior national championships, he was celebrating, he was happy, his uncle was coaching him. And his uncle immediately picked up the phone, called the Spanish Federation and said, I would like a list of every single kid who won the national junior Spanish championships, please. And then he had that list sent over to them and he put them in front of Rafa and he said to Rafa, how many of these people do you recognize? And Rafa's like, 4 of them. And he said, well, what are you celebrating? What are you celebrating? You won a match as a kid. This is not your future. This is not the finish line. This is not like creating anything incredible. The work has only just begun, but now we know that you deserve it. So how many founders spend all of their time celebrating, raising $5 million, $3 million, $10 million when they have done nothing? And the only thing they do is just things. And how many venture capital funds are celebrating that they raised a fund of $1 billion? And then when things go really bad, they talk about it as a bad harvest or something else. So all I say is this, like, this world is incredible. Startup is the most amazing thing in the entire world. It is truly the only freedom away from the bondage that is the slavery of everyday life, whereby you go to work and you have to stay there for your whole life to somehow get through with your head above water and not drowning in debt. However, to get through in startup, it is the most difficult thing you will probably do in your entire life. And you cannot go into it with your eyes closed, thinking it's some lovely, fluffy environment that you're going to walk into and you get your t-shirt with your name on it and you get your business card with CEO on it and you get to go to networking events and you get to meet like awesome, cool people who are going to tell you how amazingly phenomenal you are. Like, it ain't that. It is the hardest thing you will ever do, but it is also an incredible thing, not because of the money that you can make, because I don't think of wealth and abundance and all those things in cash terms. I think of them in the form of purpose terms. So if you can go and build something and innovate and create something and bring it to the world, and you look back and say, this whole thing, and you and I are like crypto freaks, right? And so that's why I like crypto so much, because someone, Satoshi, and then all of the people who followed, someone was brave enough at a time when everybody hated on that person, those people, to be able to bring out this incredible innovation, take it out to the world, share it with everybody, and say, be damned with whatever you want to do with me. It's okay, because this thing will last the test of time. It's a beautiful thing, but it's not easy.
It's not easy, and it is a personal endeavor where, just as crypto and DeFi has been very messy, extraordinarily messy, the process of development, the process of having a baby is nice in the beginning. It's a great idea. You're making love with your partner, and then all of a sudden you're 9 months going through this embryonic phase, and there's emotions, there's sadness, there's messiness, there's anger, there's resentment, there's all kinds of stuff. If you look at the two, we're borning a new world, a new earth. So if you look at our industry, yes, there's bad actors, there's thieves, there's all kinds of, there's drugs, there's this, that, and the other. And yet at the core of where we're headed is we're borning a new earth. So that, on a personal level, as an entrepreneur, as a startup, is a lot of deep breaths. That's number one, a lot of deep breaths, and a lot of what you said the secret is execution. Practice, practice, produce. Practice, practice, produce. Continue to go to the mat. Continue to practice and get better over time. And I think that's what our community does, especially in crypto, is that we prepare you to go to the mat. We prepare you to go to the mat. You're not on the mat yet. We prepare you to go to the mat. And in that, you learn the tools. Excuse me.
Yeah. And by the way, while you're saying that, I like to throw something at. I don't think there's really any worse actors in crypto or in Web3 than there were in Web2. I don't think so. I just think the actors in Web2 wear very nice suits and very nice ties and they look awesome. And they're generally like in very nice places having private dinners and stuff. And when really bad things happen, they don't get discussed as much. And this is a new innovation that's coming through. And whenever you have new innovation, it doesn't matter. Like I even compare it to the US at the beginning, right? There weren't worse people than we are today. You could argue maybe better people, but the environment was more harsh. And so when you have a new environment that's coming in and that environment is more harsh, first of all, there's looseness in what people can do, which means that can become bad actors, where it's harder as it matures. But second of all, people just have to do what they need to do. So I think what's happened within decentralization is a beautiful thing. I don't even really think of Web3, Web2, Web 2.5, or crypto or anything else. I just think of black and white TVs and color TVs. That's all. Like we had a black and white TV for the last 30, 40 years. Like we went internet, we then took the internet and we made it a little bit smarter. And then we threw a little bit of, software services in there and other bits and pieces and maybe some APIs. And then it was nice. It was a good black and white TV with 3 or 4 channels. But come on, we don't want a black and white TV anymore. We don't want a flat screen anymore. We want immersive television. We want something that we can throw ourselves into, that we can truly get feeling from. We want to be able to not be the one always producing the work for that black and white TV to give us some output from it. And so color TV is coming. And color TV doesn't look Web 2, Web 3, it's not metaverse, it's not any of those things. Color TV is just a life whereby there's more transparency. It's a life whereby we can break down the cost of things and do it in a much simpler way. It's a life whereby finance is easier to work out. It's a life whereby if we do it properly, there's more freedom, there's better schooling. There's so many things that can be put inside it, but we have to make sure that right now, as the stewards of the people, who are the stewards of this great new technology that's being brought through, we have to make sure that we're responsible and we do it properly. And that's okay by me.
I love how this conversation is going. So there's the secrets of the startup and this stepping stones to birthing a new world is basically birthing a new you. And in birthing a new you, the people that you surround yourself with, your executives, your teams, your community. I like Web3 because it stands for this community. A lot of organizations that I've seen before, we called it company culture or culture. And now we have community that truly is magnifying the technology. What does that mean? So if we have the secrets to startups, what are the secrets? I stated mindset. You brought up Tony Robbins. I get it. I've been a life coach for a long time. I've also been an executive coach. I've also gone through the phases of being an entrepreneur, and I've also moved myself into investor. And so now owning 3 different companies, including media company and our wealth management company, along with, personally being an advisor, all those phases, I recall having doubted myself every growth point, every growth edge. And when I doubted myself, what happens is you attract those people who press you on your edge to either grow or fail. So what would be the third secret that you would say to a startup or an entrepreneur who's thinking about coming out and just they're at that growth edge? They are now ready to either invest or they will. And I mean, they're investing in their own companies. So what is that third secret? I said mindset, you said execution. What is that third secret you'd
Okay.
like to share?
Can I throw you like 3 concepts in a row,
Please.
please, before I
Yes.
forget them? And I'll
Yes.
try and say them really quickly, but they're really good concepts, right? So the first concept is that I love my tennis, and I found out very recently that the top 5 tennis players in the world do one thing consistently that other tennis players don't do, and that's that whenever they hit a bad shot, they reinforce how good they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. Like, and I never did that. Whenever I play, I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I'm so stupid. I hit that shot in the net. I'm so bad. And like, that's the problem most people have. We get stuck in this cycle. Like there is a lot to the concept of what is needed to be coached through life, right? Because Otherwise, we get into our own heads. And I loved that when I heard that, because it was so simple. It's that every single time I hit something wrong, I'm going to reinforce the positive side that's really good on me. And I think that's really important from a mental health perspective, which is one of the hardest things in startups. Like number two, you have to have a methodology when you're building a startup. And the methodology has to be based on math. It cannot be based on emotion. It has to be based on logical math, which means that every single thing needs to add up or subtract to another number, period, right? There are 5 areas that are important when you're working this out. The first area is your outbound. If you are not outbounding, i.e. reaching out through all of the channels that you need to reach out to achieve your goal. So let's say you want to hit $30,000 a month in revenue this year, and let's say you have $1,000 per customers. That means you need 30 customers. So you work out what your conversion ratio is from outbound to meetings, to prospects, to sales. And so your outbound has to be commensurate with the amount of numbers that you need to outreach to in your outbound, okay? Number 2, emotional resonance. You have got to have emotional resonance with your customers. If you don't have emotional resonance with your customers, you will lose. Emotional resonance is built based on trust. Trust is built based on authenticity. All of that is surrounded by customer-generated content. If you don't have consumer-generated content, which is helping people trust in a trustless world, you will lose. That brand, that is the mattress that is underneath it all, has got to be purpose tethered through to transformative impact. If you do not have purpose tethered to transformative impact, which is surrounded by trust, awareness, and everything else that's in there that allows the customer to feel safe, you will not convert at the best ratio. Number 3, forget about minimum viable product. It is a disgusting, horrible, nasty term. You should be focused on lovable product. Lovable product is simple, it is complete, and it is transformative. And you don't have to have all of the features. That's why I said simple. But you cannot approach a customer telling them you're going to have a minimum viable anything. It's just bloody ridiculous. I don't even know why they came up with the concept. Imagine a minimum viable marriage. Why don't you try that and see how that thing goes? You should do just fine for about a day until you have a maximum viable divorce. Okay, final point, 4th point, is with regards to epic productions to move you from domain awareness through to domain expertise through to domain dominance, right? And all of these, and then you got investment at the end. But investment is never a reason why you fail. Investment is generally a symptom of the other 4 areas as to why you fail. So number 1 that I mentioned here is reinforcement. Always reinforce good things. We all mess up all the time. It's part of startup. It's what you're supposed to do. But we have to reinforce with a methodology that is going to allow us to succeed the next time. I gave you the 4 points of the methodology that you are able to do there. And then the final thing I just want to say is build everything based on community. Community is like the fundamental, most important thing you can do. I mentioned to you the TEDx talk, and I mentioned to you how that brought me into venture, and then how we raised money, and then how we used that money to invest in hundreds of companies and do what we promised people we would do. But what I did not say was that we started at the beginning with events, huge events in Santa Monica, which we'll call pay it forward events. And those pay it forward events, we would bring in thousands of people over months, but probably say 600-700 people in 1 month. People will still remember them today if they were at these events in the Victorian in Santa Monica. And they would all come, and people would pay it forward notes and say, I will pay it forward with this, and I will pay it forward with that, and I will pay it forward with this. And we had a giving tree, and then the giving tree was too small because too many people wanted to pay it forward. And like all of the crap and like nastiness that we have in the world around us today could not be possible at that stage because too many people were paying it forward. They were trying to help everybody else around them. And so that allowed me to build a really good cult. Cults are great, right? They're great. They're the best. You just should never use them for bad. Use them for good, but like cults are the very best. So build a cult, have methodology, and reinforce with positive thought. That's all I got. I got nothing else. I just like gave you my whole life.
And it's interesting because that's when I met you at the Victorian. I had a venues online. I was the first woman to ever have venues online for the location filming agents and also event planners. And the Victorian was one of my venues. And I remembered Expert Dojo when you first started. It's been a long time coming. So happy to have met you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I think you pretty much just laid it all out. Is there anything else that you would like to leave for the entrepreneur that's right now, they maybe had their seed round and they're ready to go to the next level? Is there any last words for this day and time? Because we're at a very auspicious time for our.
Yeah, just don't be a whiner. Nobody likes a whiner. Don't moan about how difficult and tough things are. Trust me, anybody who's building a startup, and most of the people listening to this show, all of us have been given an unfair advantage to where we are right now. I may say, wow, look at what I've achieved and look at what I've done. But come on, this is a marathon of 26 miles, which I got to start in mile 6 or mile 7, right? Just because my family, the education, the people I know, the things I've got, I got that. I got that for free. Other people are starting in mile minus 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Other people don't even have to go the whole way, right? That's the piece that I feel is just a little bit too unfair, right? When they get to get an Uber at mile 10. So don't be a whiner. If you're in this world, if you've chosen to be a startup, if you've chosen to go out, take the words of Tony Nadal. Don't be celebrating small little wins and saying how great and amazing you are. Go out, win your war against time, because you're not competing against competitors. You're not competing against lack of money. You're not competing against a product which isn't working. You are competing against time. That is what your war is against. So win that battle by being extremely focused on building the most incredible products that your customers will ever encounter in their entire lives. And just when you think it can't get any better, that's when you get to go to Horizon 3. Oof. Sorry,
Everyone, Expert Dojo, Brian Mac Mahon, he is known for being the head honcho, and now you know why. Thank you so much for being here. Really applaud you in all your efforts. I'd love watching you in action at the accelerator at Bit Angels. You were just like, so the projections. Do you have
honest.
projections? Do you have a
Honest.
perspective? And you're just honest. And I love that about you. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, we will invite all of you out there to meet our transformational educators in the Web3 space who have gone the extra mile to bring you their knowledge here to help serve you. So check out Expert Dojo. And until next time, we'll keep it going. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. You're the best. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
In final closing words, we are in that moment where we get to create great change. And if you are holding back in any way, shape, or form, that change will sit inside of you. And that change will start to eat you alive. So listen to that inner voice. Listen to our experts. Listen to what Brian said. Be the person who has measurable goals with measurable results. And don't be a whiner. When you whine, to speak to that, you're creating a vibrational, inharmonious nature. So it will slow down your projects. It will slow down your vision. It will throw you out of sorts for yet another learning curve. I want to say thank you for tuning in and sharing this message with all those who you believe are ready to go to the next level in business and also curious about crypto, Web3, and our developments. Our fintech PR company does business strategy along with storytelling to help you build more trust and also grow your cult, as Brian Mac Mahon says, and be there. Be there for others. You may not have it all today, but be there for others and watch what shows up for you. Now that's true abundance, and that is a wealthy mindset. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next week, we'll see you soon. Bye for now.